we started this during the lockdown, Kunal. It's called Capital Conversations. It is a energizing the ecosystem activity where we as Brand Capital talk to the leaders within our portfolio and our ecosystem. So some of them are portfolio company founders such as yourself. Some of them are our portfolio company CEOs such as yourself, founders. Some of them are leaders in the ecosystem, be it media, be it any vertical that may be. And we have a back and forth discussion. It's absolutely not editorial. It is just it's sharing ideas, talking to each other, listen to you more about how you're firefighting during this time, what you've learned, etc., and so forth. So we've had a bunch of those. And here we are today with you. All of you know Kunal Bahl, founder of Snapdeal. We have had deals with Snapdeal for a long time now. He's an old friend. We've spent a lot of time together. So Kunal, if you want to say a couple words to introduce yourself, after that we can get to the questions straight.
Sure. Thanks, Avi. Thanks for having me, and thank you everyone for having me part of this series. It's always good to, I think all of us are at the edge of the cliff with the number of webinars we've attended or participated in by now, I'm sure. But there's always something interesting I also find by talking to different folks from different industries. I haven't spoken with folks from the media industry yet, so it's also a first for me. I'm quite looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's going to be fun. So the format's this. First, kindly, all of you, other than Kunal and I, please mute so that we can speak, and then you can listen in. And so I have a few questions. Most of these questions are from all of you. A composite of all of those questions. I have a few, maybe 7 or 8. And then after we finish those, if we have time, I'll open it to the group and keep your questions ready so you can ask them to Kunal yourself. That is the format we'll follow today. Okay? All right. Kunal, there is a long bio of you, which I won't read because we all know you so well. Anyway, so straight up, how has COVID impacted your eBiz vertical? We have read a lot about it in various places. Tell us your perspective of how it's impacted your vertical. What are the challenges you've seen? Some new opportunities you're seeing? Some growth ideas? Please.
Sure. Yeah, so I think I'll talk about how this whole thing transpired over the last couple of months, because the situation has been evolving rapidly over the last 2 months. The lockdown started getting imposed in some ways around mid of March, before the Prime Minister did the full big lockdown. And until then, things were going fine. We actually saw a bit of a lift also. But then after the nationwide lockdown was imposed, practically overnight, things went to zero. And I remember vividly, I think on whenever that was, 24th, when the Prime Minister's speech happened, I think the speech ended at, I think he talked about the lockdown and maybe a minute after that, our entire leadership team was on a phone call while the Prime Minister was still speaking about what all did we need to do at this point in time. The first thing we decided was, and this may be a little painful to hear for everyone here, but we said cut all marketing immediately. Because we knew that with all the lockdowns, there will be crazy amount of operational issues. And we didn't want to spend money on marketing, acquiring transactions and users, and we weren't even sure whether we can deliver anything. And not be caught in a situation where we spend the money to acquire the customer, but or acquire the transaction, but we haven't really monetized. That's the first thing we did. And thereafter, we set up a daily call with our leadership team, 7 days a week, 11 a.m. we would all meet. And And I think there was a lot of push and pull that ensued after that for the next 30 days with the government, law enforcement authorities, everywhere in the country. There was utter chaos. There were contradictory notifications coming out from states and the center. Everyone was interpreting things differently. It was totally complicated. I think I haven't spoken with these many police people in my life that I did in a period of 1.5, 2 weeks. But with police commissioners. And I think eventually we realized that, look, it will take its time to normalize. And honestly, it did normalize in the end. Where things stand now is post the lockdown, I guess 3.0 getting lifted. We saw a significant bounce back in volumes. We've seen trending close to some of it. I would attribute to pent up demand that a lot of consumers wanted to buy stuff just to buy stuff. I think we are seeing about the demand go back to the pre-COVID levels now. The orders go back to pre-COVID levels, which is encouraging. I'm not sure what's the availability. I think that only the next 60 days will tell us. But we've been pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't expect it to come back so quickly. I think a couple of things.
So the essentials, non-essential thing did not affect you so much during the peak of the lockdown.
No, it absolutely did. It absolutely did. When I'm saying things came back, they came back after the lockdown was lifted. They came back quickly. And I've actually been surprised by the fact that consumers are buying a very sizable amount of non-essentials also. Like our apparel business is up, is trending higher than prior to the lockdown. And I think we can now justify everything. My view is the lockdown happened when the winter was still leaving us. And then for 2 months, people couldn't buy anything. So I think suddenly people are buying their summer clothing right now. But there are a lot of interesting trends that we've seen. Like a lot of people are buying, even like one of the top selling product over the last few days was a wallet. Right? So one would have never expected that people would buy wallets right now. But it's made me realize that there are two segments of consumers. There is this, like, we generally hear about the fact that, there is no discretionary income, etc. But I feel that there are two segments broadly. There are consumers who genuinely don't have money, and then there are consumers who have the money, want to spend it, but just couldn't spend it during the lockdown. And e-commerce in general caters to that audience anyways. We are not catering to, as an industry, like laborers yet. The industry has not penetrated that deep yet. And hence, probably the impact on us is relatively limited. Whatever impact of reduction in discretionary intent to spend has probably been made up for the fact that consumers want to buy online versus offline. But that would be the quick summary of what we've seen over the last couple of months.
Good. That's actually encouraging to hear that you're seeing some spikes, and we shall all pray that it sustains. My next question is around the topic that you and I discussed some 2 years ago now, where you said something that stayed in my mind, that you said Snapdeal targets, the sweet spot of Snapdeal's target a market at that time, that might have changed now, is the tier 2 demographic. And you said something that stayed in my mind, that the largest tier 2 demographic are in the tier 1 cities, which is very true. Powerful statement, true. Now, given this lockdown scenario now, and the demographics that are buying from you, albeit now in the lockdown coming off, unlocking happening, have you seen any changes in that? Is it the same people who are buying, or a different set of people who are buying from you?
We are seeing is that about close to about 85% of our new buyers, about 80% of our new buyers are coming from outside the metros.
Outside the metros.
Yeah. Now, there are lots of big cities even outside of the metros, because the metros are only the Delhi, Bombay, etc. But we are seeing fairly sizable demand from there, and I think the reason is also very clear. The reason is that the offline supply chains, the B2B supply chains are completely disrupted right now. And when we talk to our consumers in the small towns, they tell us that the neighborhood shops just haven't been replenished for a while. And many of the items that they would want, I think there's a replenishment thing. On the essentials like sanitizers and masks, there is a trust issue.
Yes.
You observe that they would prefer buying from a platform that they've heard of, like us and others, than buy from the neighborhood store because, one customer said that, oh, I'm not sure if there is 70% alcohol in the sanitizer that my neighborhood store is selling or not. I know that you guys want cheap, right? So I know when you sell when you say 3-ply, it's 3-ply, right? Etc. I think there are those considerations that are health-related considerations that are becoming more significant at this point in time than before. But a big chunk of, I think, the demand coming from new demand, also coming from smaller towns, is because the B2B supply chains continue to be severely broken at this point in time.
Okay, that's good. So I mean, what is good to know is you are seeing a lot of business in the tier 2 cities themselves, not just the tier 2 demographics. The reason I asked that question is we have had a large number of immigrants also go back to rural areas now. That's happening. And you're seeing a lot of people who are tier 1 demographic who are not able to find products they want. They usually will get in some other source. And then are they migrating to Snapdeal? That's where my head was at.
I think it's hard. Maybe when we do the part 2 of this webinar 3 months later,
you'll have that data.
If you want to suffer me once more, then I'll have a lot more data about what happened in the 90 days after the lockdown was lifted.
We'll have to do that. We'll have to do that because because it's a learning. Let's toggle to that question that you and I discussed before when we talked. Sure. This lockdown has changed a lot in the way people think about shopping. I became a big basket user. I had an account. I became a user personally. Yeah. It was all used by somebody else in my home, myself. So this has changed buyer behavior because of extreme situation. Now, and you're seeing new customers come in, new first-time customers that might have come on, people buying things that they normally didn't buy. They went to buy somewhere else. How are you seeing that? Is that happening? Have you increased the number of new first-time users?
Yeah. So I think the last couple of, let's say give or take in the 20 days that the lockdowns sort of been lifted, we've seen 2025, we've seen about 1 million plus new buyers who've come on board. People who had never transacted from us before. From across.
And are these people doing more than one transaction?
Yeah, many. I mean, I don't know exactly the number off the top of my head, but obviously the transactions are strong. The transaction velocity is strong. So both would be buying, existing as well as new customers. But what I'm surprised by is that suddenly people have forgotten like Corona, etc., and they're starting to buy like clothes online. And many of them are first-time buyers. So I think there is this, at least I feel that there is some degree of compartmentalization that is happening in consumers' mind, that suddenly when they open a shopping app, they forget that there is a pandemic outside. And I was telling our team the other day that we should not underemphasize the feeling of happiness and joy that consumers want at this point in time, when there is all hell broken loose around them. And one of the cheapest way to indulge themselves in that feeling is just buying something, worth 300, 400, 500 rupees online. I've become a voracious online shopper. I'm otherwise not a big online shopper myself. I'm not a big shopper in general, but I've become a voracious online shopper in the last few weeks, where I'm ordering, like today I ordered like door stops. I ordered like colorful sheets of paper for my daughter. I ordered like a lapel mic to attach to my laptop. I am ordering all kinds of like I would say practically junk, which I don't need. But I think somewhere it's giving me a sense of joy somewhere.
Well, it's well, we're happy to see you become an avid shopper, and I'll tell you, when people are stuck to their apartments, homes, what have you, without a whole lot of something to do, shopping is a nice thing to do if you can get it, especially when you've been restricted from doing that for a period of time. So, and the other thing, I remember this, it comes to mind, some senior executive in Eli Lilly told me one of my biggest competitors to Prozac are shopping malls. I said, what do you mean? He said, retail therapy beats Prozac. So,
Great. The only,
so,
only,
so
only additional color with the Indian context I would add to that is that retail therapy at a low price beats
yes,
Prozac in India.
yes, and that is Snapdeal. So it's a powerful medicine. Uh, Tell us this, Kunal. You must have faced a lot of challenges with the logistics, deliveries, getting things to people's homes, managing all that.
Yeah.
And first, I want to know how you dealt with it. And then I want to know if that's going to change, if you think that's going to change how manufacturers and distributors change their logistics and facilities and all that, situating that in the future.
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost thing that we were very, very concerned about is, at any point in time, we have about, give or take, a week worth of goods,
Mm,
week of sales worth of goods, somewhere in transit,
mm,
give or take, around 7-8 days worth of sales of goods in transit. And all of that came to a screeching halt where, orders worth, many crores and crores and crores of rupees, which are
mm.
essentially or like products that are owned by the seller till the time the consumer takes possession of them. But at some level, we have some sort of deemed responsibility of those orders
Oh,
in transit, right? To either make whole the seller or make whole the buyer. If the buyer has paid for it or if the seller has not yet gotten paid. And that was our biggest concern, that what had started happening, you may find this sort of interesting, that when a lot of the trucks had been stopped at the various borders, after 1 or 2 days, the truck drivers and their helpers started just opening all the e-commerce packages and finding clothes. And then obviously once the dam breaks, you're not stopping at 1 or 2 packages. You're,
yes.
देखते laptop भी निकलेगा, right? Phone भी निकलेगा. So, and just all hell breaks loose. And then the amount of pilferage is unquantifiable. And we were extremely concerned because likely the liability of all that pilferage would have come upon us. Fortunately, we weighed in on MHA, police, various personnel at the borders where the big majority of trucks were stuck, and allowed for interstate transport of even non-essential goods. Had that not happened and had that continued until early May, because of, for whatever reason, we didn't push hard enough or the government didn't see enough empathy, the e-commerce sector would have seen losses of, just out of pilferage, worth maybe a few thousand crores
Mm,
just in that period, or at least 2-3 thousand crores is my sense. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and we were able to remedy the situation without significant amount of loss in a short period of time. That was the first big challenge that we had to overcome. And it's only now, like I think we are now left with just a few, maybe a lakh packages, etc. now. But lakhs and lakhs of packages that were still in transit, where they hadn't reached back to the seller or hadn't reached the buyer. And we honestly had our hearts in our mouth, right? As to just counting day by day, tracking day by day, the order count reducing that was in transit. Because each one such order meant potential loss of entire principal of the cost of the order to be borne.
yes.
So I actually internally, I changed my own icon for our video calls into a icon of a newborn baby's photo. where I told our team that we have to treat each of these orders like our newborn baby. We can't
Yeah.
let one of them drop also, right? And
Very nice.
so they made a lot of fun of me as they usually do. But I think somewhere the imagery stuck, and our team made sure that we didn't face any significant loss due to pilferage, which was my very, very significant concern. Um, and then I think the first step was allowing interstate transport of these trucks, essential, non-essential. Then we stabilized, then the government had allowed for only the essential deliveries for e-commerce to happen. That was honestly okay, but it was quite slow because the supply side was not geared for e-commerce. Supply side was not fully geared up to supply essentials, and a lot of the grocery guys also face challenges on the supply side. So, I think I would say all of April went into fixing the supply side for essentials. And to be honest, by the time we fixed the supply chain for essentials, the non-essentials became allowed. And then all our focus moved there, because particularly for our business, we are very focused on non-essentials. Right? We are very clear about who we are and who we are not. Right? We are not the intent-led shopping destination where you know what you want, you come buy diapers from us or whatever. We are the more impulse-led, sort of a quick classic shopping destination where you don't know what you want, you come to us and we'll show you a great deal and you'll buy something from us, right? So invariably, given that is the instinct, the impulsive instinct is what we cater to as a company, and our margin structures, high margin structures, then reflect that. The challenge for us was that we didn't have enough supply of essentials and non-essentials were not allowed. But fortunately, I think while April seemed incredibly painful, the moment non-essentials opened up, we saw demand come back fairly quickly. What I was also surprised, I have been surprised by positively, and there was a lot of talk with all our logistics partners about there not being available enough blue collar labor to do deliveries, because a lot of them had migrated back to their cities, their town, villages. I've actually been quite surprised that at least until now, maybe it's because recovery across e-commerce has not been homogeneously as good as we are seeing. Maybe the overall industry volumes are still relatively low, but we are not seeing any issues with respect to labor that earlier we thought we will face. So I think we've seen a strong recovery there. Maybe there are enough people looking for jobs in the cities right now.
Yes.
And any job which is decently well paying 25,000-30,000 rupees, nobody wants to say no to it. There's always someone out there who maybe, and they are a real hero from my perspective, that they are willing to go out, make 25-30 deliveries a day and take a lot of personal risk while doing
that. And you think that, do you have a view that the way logistics itself has been set up will change going forward from lessons from this?
Yeah, I think we are definitely seeing a structural move away from this mindset of online is not for us, whether it's small manufacturers, distributors, or the big brands also. A lot of my calls during the lockdown, surprisingly, was with some of the biggest brands in the country who always used to be of the view that, online is not for us and online will spoil our offline business. We are both in conflict. If we do online, our channel partners in offline will hate us. I think everyone dropped all those apprehensions at this time, where people said, look, we have to get ready for the future, and fine, this crisis will come and go, but there will be others. And this is this is what Satya Nadella says, right? Like 2 years worth of digital transformation has happened in like 2 months or something along those lines. And I've seen that happen. Like some of the largest consumer brands in the country approached us during this time, knowing very well we don't do a lot of work with brands. We tend to work with small manufacturers, local brands. But they are coming to us and saying that we will make budget brands for you. Only we make bulk packs for you, because we are extremely unit economics focused. We don't want to sell anything on a loss post logistics costs. They understand that, or they are far more understanding of that now than they were earlier. Earlier, the conversation would be, Well, these are our brands, these are our products, these are the prices we can sell them to you at. Then it's up to you what you do with it. We don't care whether you make a profit or a loss on it. Now the mindset was far more partnership oriented, saying, okay, what is your data saying? What are consumers looking for? Can we design special packages for you? Can we run pilots of new brands on your platform that cater to your demographic, which is the mid to low income demographic in smaller towns? So I think that's a very encouraging trend for our sector, and honestly, it's a win-win also. And these legacy apprehensions about e-commerce will kill us, etc., or spoil the offline channel. I think that's those apprehensions seem to have
gone away. And based on your lessons learned from dealing with essential goods during this pandemic, you said that you worked on it as well. You think that going forward, you will include essentials in your SKUs more?
Yeah. So I think we are now, because one of the blessings in this case was that we would have never worked on these categories if it weren't for the crisis, because all of April, we would just be twiddling our thumbs otherwise, as mostly a non-essential retailer or non-essential category retailer. So we spent a good 1 month and essentially built a lot of supply side capabilities, private labels, etc. in essentials. And essentials, when we call essentials, we are not going to get into food and grocery, because we feel that's a different business. It requires a different set of capabilities. Without changing the supply chain construct, supply chain framework of our business, how can we build out essentials as a large category? So masks, sanitizers, and when you start double clicking on it, you realize how vast the SKUs across just these categories can be. There are hundreds of types of masks, different bulk packs. Same with sanitizers, there are all sizes, sprays, gels. The moment you get deep into something, you realize it's actually a whole world in itself. So we built good capabilities there, and now I think essentials right now is trending in our top 5 categories, which was practically prior to, so it's fully incremental for us. And not only is it incremental, I see it as also serving the current needs of our customers. We don't want our everyone needs these products right now, right? Yes. Even our demographic needs these. Everyone is wearing a mask. Everyone understands the value for sanitizer. We don't want to send them away for those. Because this will be a perpetual requirement for some time to come.
No, that's powerful, because it just gives you one more leg of revenues for which people are used to coming to you. That bodes well. Tell us this, Kunal. In some ways, this pandemic, this lockdown, has leveled the playing field for online players such as you with the in-store retailers, because people just couldn't go. Well, we have discussed that. Now, going forward, and basically then there are some people who are first-time customers who have come in. People are comfortable buying essentials online. So there is practically nobody in India to whom online retail is new anymore. It is everybody, as to Satya's point, in 2 months, everybody is e-commerce knowledgeable. Now, the point too is going forward, that would mean there is going to be some kind of reordering in the e-commerce marketplace, and the leaders in e-commerce are all going to have to compete now in a different world post-COVID, which is probably more aware, more rich with business, but more competition, because the companies are also aware of people's changes. What do you view? You did say that you pulled all marketing and branding expenses when you started. My question is, as you open now, how do you view that as part of your strategy, and how do you view you should or you plan to reassure customers that Snapdeal is similar to Flipkart or Amazon? It's the same thing. How do you get that message across?
Yeah, I think our view on that is for some time has been that at the end of the day, a true evangelization of a brand happens by usage, right? Especially in the digital world, where we are fairly, like, people will buy from us reasonably frequently. So how they experience the service when they come on the app, when they buy something, when they get a delivery, when they have when they have to talk to customer service. I think that tends to dictate what a consumer thinks of us, in our view, and what our promise to the consumer is. And then when we do brand advertising, it has to just amplify that feeling, right? I never want our brand to say one thing and the consumer to experience another thing.
Hmm.
So because then though that in my head is a campaign, right? That's
Yes.
not really an amplification of what the true brand voice or brand proposition is, the brand experience is. So right now we've been very focused on, in the near term, ramping up digital marketing, which we've done quite rapidly, because that's easy to scale up as well and very easy to manage as well, easy to measure as well, right? Where we
Are
know
you back to your old levels of activity in that?
on some channels, yes. And actually the efficiency levels are much better than before.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, the reason for that is there are a lot of sectors that are yet not advertising online, like auto, airlines, hotel, hospitality, financial services. These are big advertisers online, and they're pretty much, their needle hasn't moved at all to pre-lockdown levels, which means that our unit economics are much stronger than before. And so we think of this as a short window of opportunity where we must ramp up our scale, our demand, and serve our consumers, because it's far cheaper to acquire customers now than it'll likely be for a while. And this window will close eventually, right? As other sectors one by one start coming back, this window will close. But we should make hay while the sun shines. And right now the sun is surely shining on that department. On broader brand advertising, I think once we feel good about where we are at on our digital, when we feel that our digital advertising has ramped up to an optimal level, where now we are seeing diminishing returns. I don't think we've hit that level yet. I think when we hit that level, then we'll say, okay, now what are other channels available that may offer better marginal utility, better marginal ROI than digital marketing? I think that's when we will expand into going back to more traditional media.
Okay. Good. That's a well thought out logic. I appreciate that. Now, talking a little bit around from the specific, the market and the business and how you dealt with the crisis to something innate to your business, the way you look at e-commerce. I remember you always talk about the unit economics, profitability per transaction, as much as you talk about the GMV, whereas most of e-commerce only talks about GMV.
Yeah.
Now, how did you manage such a trade-off during this? I know that discounts were not plenty during this lockdown, so maybe that helped you. But how did you manage, and how do you see that play out going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. The irony, Sammy, is that negative unit economics businesses, the cash burn of negative unit economics businesses went down during this lockdown, and the cash burn of positive unit economics businesses went up. Because, and the reason maybe obvious to some, but the reason is that when everyone's revenue went to zero, the negative unit economics became zero also, and the positive unit economics became zero also.
Yes.
So for us, it was like, because we are our economics are very strong as a company, so our unit economics are very strong, and that's been a core focus of our strategy. Our cash loss actually went up during this period, but thankfully it was a 45-day period, so it's not like it created anything close to an existential issue for us. We have a very strong balance sheet. But I know for a lot of companies, this has really created a lot of cognitive dissonance for them. Their bottom line looked healthier when they were at zero revenues. I mean, how do you deal with that as a CEO, as a board? right? Like my financials are, my bottom line is healthier when I'm not doing business. I think that has really put a tailspin on many people really rethinking their businesses. But I think coming out of this, we've seen the unit economics to be stronger than even before. Partly because I think there is a general decrease in demand across the ecosystem. So logistics companies are not jacking up rates. As I said, ad inventory online is very cheap relatively right now. So for every rupee we are spending, we are generating much more than a rupee in net margins. GMV is a number we stopped tracking years ago as a company. My view is at the end of the day, what matters is the gross margin pools of any industry, right? The total non-food retail in India is about $220 billion a year. Out of that, 160 billion is unbranded local brands, and about 50 billion is brands like what we call Nikes or like the big brands that we would hear of, right? So that's 3x, like unbranded local brands, what you get in the bazaars, etc., is 3 times that of big brands. But the big differentiator is the fact that the gross margins on the unbranded is 30%, where a lot of the margins accrue to the seller of those products, versus in the case of the big brands, the margins accrue to the brand. So the gross margin of selling a phone maybe 10%, but the gross margin of selling a sari from Surat maybe 30%, right? Because the guy doesn't have a brand and he's leaning on you as a platform to generate demand for him. So if you were to do the math on the 160 billion and 50 billion respectively, right, the gross margin pool in the segment we operate in is $50 billion a year. Gross margin pool in the branded segment is $5 billion a year. There's a $10 billion, a 10x delta in terms of gross margin pools. So that's how we think about our business, that we need to generate the largest gross margin pool in our business. And for that, let's go after the largest gross margin pool that exists in the market. Whereas if our strategy would be, let's go after the largest GMV pool, then we would go after phones, right? Because that's extremely price elastic. Some amount of discount can bring a very large share of online phone buying to you. But that will reflect in negative unit economics, which we want to stay away from. So I think we've been very consistent internally about the do's and don'ts in our business. And that's why, despite the fact that there have been billions of dollars that continue to be burnt around us, we've successfully found our own space in this market and have continued to grow.
No, good point, Kunal. I have an interesting question from the audience regarding essentials. We talked a little bit about it. Many of these essentials like masks and sanitizers, they are selling at 3x, 4x, 5x the prices today. So at those prices, you produce good unit economics, and it makes sense. Beyond a year or so, do you see these things still remain, or do you see your focus on essentials change when that goes away?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't know if the reference was specific to our platform.
No, not just to you. No.
Yeah, but there is the government has put strict price controls on sanitizers and masks right now. So if there are sanitizers or masks selling anywhere, offline, online, on our platform or any other platform at a higher price, you must notify them, because they're not. It's illegal to do that. So. Okay. The government has set a price ceiling for some of the key SKUs of sanitizers and masks, but those prices are reasonable for the consumer, but also reasonable enough for a platform like ours to make money while the manufacturer also makes money. So our view, the simple question is that, assuming that I think maybe the reference was to some fleeting experience that maybe someone has had with overpriced or some price gouging that someone may be doing. But I would say 99% of what is being sold, at least on our platform, is under price control. We put strict measures there. But I feel that even at those prices, if we keep selling product, we will continue to make unit economics. There's no concern.
Look,
honestly, if you were not making unit economics at the price controlled prices, we would not sell them.
not so.
Our philosophy is very simple. We are total, banias. We want to make. If we can't make money, we don't want to sell it. Someone else will sell it, and it's great for them.
You'll outsource the losses. I like that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about private labels. Are you thinking about private labels during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone is, because what we are, when we first started, now it's been business in its current form is maybe about 8 years old. Most of the sellers on e-commerce platforms like ours were actually traders, people who are buying from manufacturers or importing and then selling on our platform. I would say over the last 3 years, post Geo particularly, not only have we seen this 350 million new internet users come online, but concurrent to that, because many of them also run businesses, manufacturing businesses, etc., they have also come online. And what has happened is a lot of folks who, like elderly people who are running a legacy family business of bed sheets, for instance, for 30, 40 years, their next generation, the younger kids are coming and saying, look, I don't want to supply B2B bed sheets in bulk to some distributor in Chandni Chowk. Why can't we build our own brand and we'll sell it online, right? We can cut out all these guys. Yep. We sell them a bed sheet for 100 rupees. They sell it in the market for 1,000. We can just sell it ourselves for 300 and make a good profit and have more customers. So I think all those, that's been a big shift I've noticed just in the last 3 years, where a vast majority of our sellers were traders who were just buying and selling, very transactional. Now a vast majority of our sellers are manufacturers. Now within them, there are even more enterprising ones who say that, look, I have to compete with so many other of these local brands. Why don't I work directly with the marketplace and say, look, I will sell it only on your platform, right? And you may not own the brand because we don't want to own the brand necessarily, but I'll sell it only on your platform. You tell me what your customer wants, and I'll make it exactly that within the price and quality parameters you set for me. That is almost a quasi-private label, where we are not competing with our seller, but we are yet catering, we are helping them out, but we are also catering to the very precise price, quality, product needs of our customer. So we are seeing a big trend in that direction right now.
That's great. That's great that your sellers are now becoming more manufacturers. And if they are manufacturers, they'll be much more sticky. And once they rely on your channel to sell, that's good, because they'll then deploy capital that makes a much stronger ecosystem. Happy to hear that.
Sammy, on that. One is, you're absolutely right, they're sticky, more sticky, but I think the two more points. One, they are extremely quality conscious themselves. There's a great sense of pride they themselves feel in the product that they are selling, because they are making it. That's what gives them a sense of pride, purpose in life. The second thing is, when we give them feedback, customer feedback, they're actually able to do something about it. What a trader, he can't really do anything about it. He doesn't make it.
That's true. I hope all of us are taking notes. These are very important points. Amar Thomas has written a question. It's a little bit long for me to read. So Amar, please ask. Yeah. It's about Atmanirbhar.
Yeah. Hi, Kunal. Kunal, there's this growing rhetoric about anti-China, and then there's a Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar. And my assumption is that there are a lot of these, impulse purchase Chinese products that sell online. And just today, Baba Ramdev announced Order Me, which is going to be a vertical specialist for Indian products e-commerce. Do you see that being a viable, profitable business, or do you see the space being extremely niche and probably a passing phase?
It's a good question. I think, look, all of us want Indian manufacturing to be 100x of where it is today. Given, I don't think any other sector can create the type of jobs that we need in our country, which is hundreds of millions of jobs in coming years. So we all want to promote as much of Indian manufacturing as possible. But my view, look, we all come from a world which is sort of equal opportunity, egalitarian, meritocratic world. Indian manufacturing, if it competes with great quality products at great prices, I think we will see those sell more. But if we lag behind, I don't think consumers will say, okay, I'll buy a more inferior product at a high price. I don't think that's the right thing for consumers also. We as a platform don't tend to take a position on these things. Our job is to serve the needs of our customers, but we are very strict about quality. So, and we continue to keep raising the bar on permissible quality levels, basis ratings, reviews. So if a customer doesn't like a product, it could be made in India, made in China, made in the US. We don't care. It goes off the platform automatically. But if a consumer likes the product, we are not tracing its origins either. Right? For us, delighting our consumers, meeting their needs on quality, price, functionality is our number one goal. And look, if tomorrow the government puts bars on Chinese imports, etc., that's fine. Then we'll make do with whatever supply is available, and we'll make sure that within the supply that is available, we serve the best supply at the best prices to our customers. So we only work off the pool that is available to us, but we don't judge the pool.
Okay, thank you.
That's very well said. Shruti has an interesting question for you, and I'll let Shruti ask the question, but I'll also say something else somebody else added. I want to add that to Shruti's question. I'll give you the addition first, and then let Shruti ask her question. The addition is, after having going through COVID, would you still be an entrepreneur if you had to choose it all over again? That is the second question. But the first question is, Shruti, go ahead, ask.
Hi, Kunal.
Hi.
So, Kunal, my question is, I'm just taking this opportunity to ask you a question, which is more about your journey as an entrepreneur rather than the COVID impact, the current pandemic. It's not related to that. So, from riding high, Snapdeal, to existential crisis, and then getting back on your feet again. So, Snapdeal has gone through that entire journey. So, how we want to understand and we want to know from you, how did you keep yourself and your team motivated and through those challenging times, and what are the learnings? This will be actually an inspiration for many people. So I thought, yes.
I think we'll spend a couple of hours only on that. And a 2-3 minute answer.
Sure.
At some level, a lot of people ask me this, that, oh, in your toughest time. By the way, firstly, I think every good company, every good entrepreneur, every good management team has gone through its ups and downs. Like BCCL is one of the greatest companies in our country and one of the greatest media companies in the world. Like the things that BCCL has accomplished over the last many decades, very few media companies globally have done. But I'm sure if you were to start using a magnifying glass and look at various time periods of the company, there were probably many existential crises, but they're probably so far in the past now that nobody even talks about them. But the memories are still there, the learnings are still there. I think similarly for us, we don't now look back as much about that was a really tough time, etc. It's only when folks ask us, we reminisce about those periods, some a bit with pain and a bit with pleasure at the same time. Pain because there were painful periods through this journey, and I'm sure there will be more in the future. And honestly, COVID doesn't even come close to the magnitude of pain that we as entrepreneurs and as a team have dealt with. But look, I feel that these ups and downs are part of business, and Andy Grove said it nicely, the Intel CEO. Bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them. Right? So I think it's too early to call ourselves a great company, but I know for a fact that we have demonstrated a great degree of anti-fragility as a company, where whenever we've been hit with a crisis, we've emerged better, stronger, more self-aware of what our strengths and weaknesses are. Right? Each crisis and our weakness made us humbler. And I think believe it or not, I think it's easier for entrepreneurs to deal with crisis than most people think, because that's all we deal with. I think most of my memories of the last 13 years since I started the company have been about my failures and when things went wrong. I rarely remember the times when things went well. Right? So I think our scar tissue is so thick now that it's like, I think we've become a bit immune almost to a sociopathic degree. But what I'm always more mindful about is, like, while we may have deep scar tissue, I can't expect everyone on my team to have that.
Yeah.
Their level of dealing with great degrees of professional pain, job security issues, media saying bad things about the company, right, etc. I think, and the peer prestige, the loss of peer prestige they feel when they are working at a company where other people are not seeing good things about. Those are the things that I spend more time thinking about when we are in a crisis. And my learning, sort of the short answer to that would be, it all boils down to transparent and frequent communication. Anytime when we were in crisis, one thing we always over-indexed on is transparently, truthfully, and frequently communicating with our team about what's good, what's optimistic, what can't be fixed, what we are trying to fix, how much money we have, how much money it would take. And we'd be quite transparent. At that point in time, we realized that there are only two types of people left: people who still believe and people who don't. And all you need is the people who believe. And as long as you have enough of those, you'll make it through. It's just, I realized that, these ups and downs happen, but when you're at the bottom of the abyss, just having that courage to continue for that just a little bit longer is all that counts. But once you come out of the abyss, you realize, oh gosh, I was about to give up. Had I given up just then, all this that I'm seeing now, which is goodness and a comeback, I would have never seen.
Yeah.
So I think because we've gone through that over and over again, now we have almost this irrational, deep-rooted belief that, okay, we'll see more crisis, but fine, we'll just stick with it. We'll communicate frequently with our team and we'll come out of it. And same with in a mini crisis like COVID, we did exactly the same thing and the same result happened. We came out of it. We are better off. We are better prepared for future crises.
Great. Thank you.
I love that, Kunal. Irrational, deep-rooted belief. Yeah, that's what we all need to fight a crisis. And to you, crisis fighting is unconscious competence. So it is. It's good. Okay, guys. One last question for Kunal. We're coming up on 5 o'clock. So one last question, anybody? Go ahead. Shoot.
Hi, this is Sanjay, Kunal. I'd like to, as this social distancing and people afraid of shopping at physical outlets is a real fear that will, permeate over a period of time. Yet people require, products and services which platforms such as yours are delivering. And you also spoke about the fact that about over 1 million new subscribers came into the fold. And what is, this is a once in a lifetime kind of an opportunity where, so is there any specific strategy that you're deploying in terms of your communication, talking about contactless delivery or hygiene, all of those factors where all these fence sitters, as Sammy had put in the start, many Delhis in Kanpur and many Kanpurs in Delhi, that we have all this cohort of people who have never transacted in the past, but would love to. And this is an opportunity for them to, jump the fence and get into this bandwagon of, e-commerce getting, delivery. So what are your thoughts on that? Thanks.
I think it's look, we have an interesting challenge as a company because we don't own any of the inventory we sell. We don't even touch the products that we sell. Neither do we deliver the products ourselves, right? We are pure, literally what a technology marketplace should be, just connecting the dots as intelligently and as efficiently as possible. But what we have done is we've created fairly detailed SOPs with our sellers. We have, a few lakh sellers on our platform, and tens of thousands of them are active every month. We've created detailed SOPs and trainings and videos for like all the precautions they need to take while both warehousing and packaging of products, of orders. Similarly, with our logistics partners, who anyways are quite self-aware because they realize that they are also watching out for the health and well-being of their own employees. Right? They care about that also, not only the end consumer, but also about their own employees who are actually on the street delivering to consumers, going household to household.
And if there is anything that you want to discuss with us at any time regarding marketing, media, anything else, we're always around. And we always look forward to your wisdom going forward. And 3 months later, we'll get back to you. We'll do another one.
And thank you, Sammy, and for having me part of this. And I really appreciate getting this opportunity. I know really real luminaries have preceded me, so I want to make sure that I don't let you down. But I hope it was a helpful conversation. And I also want to add that, as partners of Brand Capital for many, many years now, we really appreciate the partnership with you, Shruti and Puneet and everyone else who's been involved working with us over the last many years. And I'm sure for the next many years also. We really value the partnership.
Super, we do too. Thank you.